Yesterday afternoon, Ben Shapiro briefly visited the PM22 Expo. Though he was not registered or expected, we take full responsibility for the harm done by his presence.
So do I get to get a picture?
1, 2, 3.
God bless you.
Hey, thank you.
We agreed to sell the Daily Wire a first-time booth based on the company's large presence in podcasting. The weight of that decision is now painfully clear.
All right, Ben. Pleasure to meet you. Good to meet you.
During event planning, the dangerous nature of the company's messaging was overlooked.
I love what you're saying. Thank you.
Those of you who called this unacceptable are right. Podcast movement has made mistakes. The pain caused by this one will always stick with us.
Yeah, thanks for everything you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thank you so much for coming. This is huge.
Of course. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a story that sounds like it's straight out of the Babylon Bee. And I promise you that it's not. This is a 100% real story that I couldn't believe when I first read it. However, I thought about it and I said, well, I guess it is believable because the left, they become as soft as toilet paper, right? They're Charmin ultra soft, right? They are baby doo-doo soft, right? That's what they are, okay? And this story right here proves it. As Ben Shapiro's presence at a podcast movement convention sparks Twitter dust up because podcast movement was apparently, allegedly triggered by Ben Shapiro being there. Yes, they were triggered by the man being at the conference, a conference for podcasters. But apparently, Ben Shapiro being there, Ben Shapiro show is a podcast that triggered them, right? Triggered them to the point where they had to issue a public apology for him being there. Again, you can't make this stuff up, but again, this is par for the course, man, when it comes to the left. They are super duper soft. These are the same people, some of whom basically talking about a civil war. How can you fight a civil war, right? Being against guns, first and foremost, and then two, being this soft, right? It doesn't sound like that is something that will actually work out well for them. Not if, again, they're going to be this soft. So let's read about this. Conservative political commentator Ben Shapiro's appearance and the podcast movement's apology for his presence became the biggest headline to surge from the podcast group's convention in Dallas so far. The convention, which brings together podcasters and industry professionals, began Tuesday and continues through Friday at the Sheraton downtown Dallas. Shapiro, the host of the Ben Shapiro Show podcast, showed up Wednesday at a booth for the Daily Wire, the content production company and podcast network he founded after he left Breitbart in 2016. Shapiro's presence generated a critical response from attendees who objected to his views. From there, the discussion spilled over into the Twitter sphere. In a tweet Thursday, the podcast movement apologized for Shapiro's appearance. Quote, though he was not registered or expected, we take full responsibility for the harm done by his presence, the tweet read. So I want you guys to understand what's going on here. Podcast movement is saying, look, the Daily Wire was registered, aka they paid for a booth. They paid to be there. We took their money, right? The Daily Wire, which hosts Ben Shapiro, that is, I believe, owned by Ben Shapiro, or at least he has some ownership of the company. We gladly took their money, despite the fact that they have shows and content that we don't agree with. We gladly took their money, expecting for Ben Shapiro not to show up, right? We didn't expect him to be there, but we took their money. The fact that he showed up, though, triggered us because we wanted to take their money without actually having the guy who owns the company show up, right? Again, I want y'all to understand how silly this is. These people were more than happy to take the Daily Wire's money, aka Ben Shapiro's money, but they didn't want him to actually be there, right? His presence couldn't be there. Again, absolutely amazing. Shapiro fired back a tweet of his own, quote, literally shaking right now. Podcast movement is threatening my right to exist. This is erasure. Silver, who was the media moderator for the Fireside Presents panel Thursday, said in a reply tweet that although he loved podcast movements, its response was frustrating. Quote, I have always appreciated how inclusive PM has been. However, apologizing for hosting one of the largest networks in the industry because they believe differently than some in the PM community is the least inclusive move I've seen PM do. Facts. Again, it's not inclusion. When these leftist ideologues talk about how they want diversity and inclusion, I tell you guys this 1,000 times, and they prove me right 1,000 times, that what they actually really mean is that we don't want a diversity of thought, right? We just want a diversity of faces that all think the same way that we think, right? AKA, we want them to be leftist socialists, right? That's what we want. We want them to be woke. And if you're not woke, okay, then you don't belong in the club, right? They don't want a diversity of thought. They only want a diversity of faces. That's it. And that only goes so far, because if you're a straight white male face, then you're on the chopping block if you're not woke enough, right? And we all know that you can never, ever, ever be woke enough. And Machnet, who produces the Lore podcast, tweeted that a podcast movement apology is a, quote, good start, but more needs to be done, namely remove the Daily Wire booth and staff from the conference entirely. Their presence made every LGBTQ attendee feel unsafe. I actually would kind of somewhat empathize with this a little bit if Matt Walsh was there, because I'm gonna tell you, Matt Walsh goes hard against Alphabet, right? I can kind of see why people would feel a little bit uncomfortable with Matt Walsh, because he go hard. Although I still think it's ridiculous to say that you feel unsafe around the guy. Obviously, you shouldn't feel unsafe around the guy, right? I'm just saying, if he was actually there, I mean, the meltdown would have been amazing, right? It would have been epic. But again, these people, they're saying we need to remove the Daily Wire almost entirely. Okay, they can't be a part of the conference at all, because we don't want podcasts that don't agree with our, leftist ideology. Even though we are a podcasting conference, we're supposed to be for everybody in the industry. And we know that when it comes to podcasting, a big part of podcasting is political podcasting, right? That makes up a large chunk of podcasting. So imagine, what they're basically saying is that we're going to cut out half the political podcast industry. Basically, the half that doesn't agree with us. Again, this is the type of stuff that leftists are into, man. This is what they're into. Podcast Movement also tweeted that it had agreed to sell the Daily Wire a first-time booth based on the company's, quote, large presence in podcasting. The weight of that decision is now painfully clear. Shapiro is a co-founder. A drop-in, however unlikely, should have been considered a possibility. Wow. Again, we're more than happy to take their money as long as the co-owner doesn't show up. These people should be ashamed of themselves. The podcast movement also clarified that representatives from the Daily Wire were not scheduled to appear on panels, and that Shapiro, quote, remained in the common space and did not have a badge. AKA, we didn't platform him. We didn't give him a major platform. Okay, and so what if he would have spoke? Is he not a podcaster? Does his views not count? Can he not help others in the industry, right? Just because he has political views that you disagree with? And that's the sad part about this, guys. Right? That is the part of this that is the saddest part of this story. The fact that Ben Shapiro being there is actually good for anybody who's showing up to this event to potentially network with somebody like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro being at a podcast event like that could change somebody's life. Somebody who otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to network with somebody like Ben Shapiro now has the opportunity to do that because he's there. However, because this podcast convention or whatever, their founders, the people that are running it, are triggered by Ben Shapiro's presence because they disagree with him politically, they're basically saying we want to take that opportunity away from the people that attend that convention or conference. Because that's the whole point. The whole point is to network. So you need people from all across the aisle, right? From all across the industry so that people can network, right? That's the whole point. That's the whole point. And these people don't even realize you're getting in your own way. You are actually hurting yourself. You're hurting your mission by refusing to have people there who disagree with you politically. Because that conference in and of itself is not about politics. They didn't go there to discuss politics. They went there to discuss the industry. They went there to discuss business. They went there to meet networks, to create new contacts. That's what they went there for. But again, these people can't get out of their own way. They will destroy their own business. Real harm that's being caused here is to the people that attend who may not no longer be able to network with somebody at the Daily Wire or somebody like Ben Shapiro, because these people are triggered by his presence. They're so soft, they can't stand the idea of Ben Shapiro being in the same room with them. Simply because he has different political opinions. I don't know how these people survive in this world, man. Which really is a testament to how privileged people are in this country, right? Just the fact that anybody's born in this country, that you have the privilege to be triggered because somebody has a different viewpoint than you, to the point where you have to issue a public apology just for allowing this person to come to a conference, to be in your presence. It just shows you how great it is just to be born in this country, where this is what you have to worry about. This is what you have to fear. Being in the presence of somebody who has a different viewpoint than you, right? It's absolutely amazing, man. But again, it's stuff like this that will ruin somebody's business. Well, all they had to do is say nothing. I'm pretty sure nobody was looking out for an apology. But ultimately, what they really want is that they want to alienate people who disagree with them politically from society. That's what they want. They want to push us out of society because we don't agree with them politically. It doesn't matter if the event in and of itself is political or not. You can't participate because of politics. Again, these people think they're on the right side of history. The digital book burners, right? Not allowing people to come to podcast conventions, even though they have one of the largest podcasts in the industry. Okay? These people think that they're on the good side. They're the good guys. Spare me. This is a joke. You guys are soft. Man up. Grow some cojones. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.